Today we're redoing the simulation of the Even Steven. If you watched my last video on this strategy, you may have noticed that the payout on the buy 4 and 10 wasn't exactly correct. I'd like to thank Waylon, Joseph, and Bogies for pointing that out to me, and the credit for this video still goes to McMulton for prioritizing this strategy. Let's very quickly review the strategy. I'll point out what I had wrong, and then we'll run a new simulation and see what changed. With this strategy, we first wait for a point to be established and then bet 110 on the evens. At the first hit, we'll bump the 6 and 8 to $42 each, and then we'll collect for the second and third hits. On the fourth hit, we'll add $25 on the 5 and 9, and then we'll alternate press and collect until we 7 out. Let's run through a couple rolls and see what happens. And our point is going to be 8. And we hit on the 10, so that's going to pay $49. This is what I had wrong in the previous simulation. Since this is a buy bet and this particular casino collects the VIG on the win only, the bet pays true odds, which is $50, less the VIG, which is $1 for a payout of $49. Now what I was doing before was calculating the VIG on the win amount rather than the bet amount, so it was overcharging by $1. In this case, it was paying out $48 instead of $49. So that's what I had wrong. Let's go through the rest of the simulation and see how that affects the results. Now that was the first hit, so we'll go up to $42 on the 6 and 8. We hit that 8, that was also the point, so the puck is going to go off. Our bets are not working at this time. Our new point is going to be 6. And there's a hit on the 8. Now it's time to add $25 on the 5 and 9. We hit on the 4. So in this case, what we're doing is alternating press and collect, but we're doing it by number. So I had a question in the comments on the last video. So we're going to press the 4, then we'll collect the 4 when it hits again, which you can see right there. First hit on the 5 is going to be a press. Same thing on the 9. And there we hit the point of 6. So I think that's enough to see the strategy. Let's go ahead and run the simulation and see what happens. We'll run 100,000 sessions of 10 shooters per session. Okay, we had 8.5 million throws of the dice, which is 85 throws per session. Total bet is almost $300 million, with $168 million won and $175 million lost. That's an overall house take of 6.3 million, and our house edge has fallen to 2.131%. Let's see how the players did, first by looking at it on a per shooter basis. You can see here the players won for 28.5% of the shooters and lost on the other 71.5%. Let's see how much they won or lost. The most lost for any single shooter was $110. While the most won was almost $50,000. Here's the histogram. The bins here are $50 wide. About a quarter of the time is a small loss up to $50. 60% within plus or minus 100, which is pretty well correlated to what we saw on the last simulation. 90% within plus or minus $100. Now let's see how the players did over a full session of 10 shooters. 33.9% won, while 66% lost. There was a small number, 48 sessions, that broke even on their sessions. Let's see how much they won or lost. The most lost was $1,100. And the most won was $49,687. Here's the histogram. The bins here are $100 wide. The most frequent outcome is a loss of $400 to $500. And that happened a little over 10% of the time. So now our losses and wins up to $100 are at 73.5%. That was a little bit higher with the last simulation. And that's a reflection of the lower VIG that we're being charged. And that, of course, means that there's going to be slightly fewer losers and slightly more winners. This is a chart of the bankrolls at their worst over the session. Just about 95.5% of the players never had a bankroll that fell below $800. Here's the report card, and let's compare it to what we were doing before. We still have 100,000 sessions with 10 shooters per session. You can see the house edge has changed quite substantially, actually, from 3.038% to 2.131%. But what I found really interesting is the win and lose rates really only shifted by about 1%. We went from 33% wins to 33.9% wins, and there are a small number of pushes that are not included in that number. The lose rate went from 67 to 66%. The middle 50% range changed from 496 to 154 to 487 to 172. So again, it's a slight shift towards more amount won than lost. On the 90%, it went from 748 to 1134 to 741 to 1158. So really small numbers of changes. And then the bankroll survival changed by $1, which is $909 now, given, and before it was $910. Definitely there's a shift in the numbers, but it's surprisingly lower as compared to what I saw in the house edge. And this is one of the things I'm starting to evolve my thinking on, is how much does the house edge actually affect the individual outcomes that you could expect at the tables. And I want to do a lot more experimentation and a lot more investigation into how does the house edge actually affect likelihood of walking away a winner or a loser at the table. So if you're interested in those kind of things, I'd love to have you subscribe, and definitely let me know in the comments below what you think about this strategy and about how these numbers changed. And I appreciate all of you, and take care and good luck at the tables.